Hi, I'm Leslie Wright, and I am interviewing Lindsay for the Listening Family Project presentation. And Lindsay's here with me now, and I'd like to ask Lindsay a few questions. I know that you live in Lincoln, Alabama, and your family's lived there for a few years now. Can you tell me why you chose Lincoln, Alabama?
We chose Lincoln because it was close to Joshua's school, his doctors, and his therapist, and so it was a great mutual location for both our works and his therapy that he needs.
And so it's you, your husband, Brian, who's 28, and you're 27, and Joshua's 4, that live in the household?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me how you and Brian met and how long y'all have been married?
Brian and I met when I was a freshman at Auburn University through mutual friends. We've been together for 8 years, and we have been married for 5.
Wow, that's nice. When did you learn that Josh had a hearing impairment?
We found out Joshua was deaf when he was 7 weeks old. He had initially failed his newborn hearing screening, but we were assured it was just fluid in his ears, but I pushed for more tests, and when we went back for more tests, we found out through an ABR, which is an auditory brainstem response test, that he was profoundly deaf in both ears.
That must have been hard to accept. Now, can you tell me how you communicated with Josh when he was young?
Well, Joshua has cochlear implants, but he didn't always have them. He wasn't implanted until he was 14 months. But the first 14 months of his life, we had chose spoken language as our method of communication. So we communicated pretty much the same as any other parent would. We talked a lot more, and even though he couldn't hear us, it gave us a foundation for the therapy that would come and for him to be used to that type of input.
Okay, that sounds good. Could you tell me your favorite part of the day with Josh?
My favorite part of the day with Joshua is our bedtime routine. That's the part of the day where I get to see all the things that I never thought I would get to experience with him because he was deaf. We always read a bedtime story, and he'll tell me, "No, Mama, I read the story." And as a teacher, when I found out Joshua was deaf, I never thought that I would be able to teach my child to read, or my child would be a fluent reader. And so for a 4-year-old to want to read part of the story that's deaf, it's just amazing to me every day. And then he'll say, "Mommy, can we sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star?" And he always wants to sing a song, and it's just amazing to me as that part of the day. But at the same time, it's the hardest part of the day too, because we don't take off his implants until he falls asleep. And so no matter what, I never go to bed before he does, because he can't sleep in his implants. And so no matter how exhausted I am after the day, I have to stay up so he can hear until he falls asleep so he's comfortable.
That does make the day long. Let me ask you, what kind of keeps you up at night, or what's one of your major worries about Josh?
It's really not a worry about Joshua. It's more of, we worry about his insurance when he's no longer on our insurance. We're extremely blessed to have a great insurance through my husband's work, and not just my PHIP for being a teacher insurance, but we have a lot of payments now, even with great insurance, and our insurance covers more than most people. And the biggest thing is just when he's off our insurance, what will he do, and how will his insurance cover him?
Yeah. When did y'all decide on cochlear implants?
We decided on cochlear implants the day we found out he was deaf, and we knew it was an option. We immediately started the route with genetic testing, MRIs, the CAT scans to make sure that he had the anatomy in his inner ear to be eligible, and we always knew it was something that we wanted to do. Our surgeon had told us that most deaf children graduate with less than a 4th grade reading level, and as I mentioned earlier, that was something that was really important for me, was to be able to teach him to read and for him to know how to read fluently. And so I learned in college that most kids that don't have a 4th grade reading level or above are the ones most likely to end up in prison. And so,
oh God, that would have scared me too.
And so I put 2 and 2 together, and I mean, he's in the 90th percentile for normal hearing peers in all academics now. So I think our decision was right on, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
I think it's a great decision. I have here how cochlear implants, a question about how they work. Do you mind spending a few seconds telling me about that?
Well, basically, a cochlear implant is an electrode that's placed into the inner ear, and it creates an artificial sound that sends signals to the brain to replace the parts of Joshua's ear that don't receive sound. And there's a lot more to it, but it's a long surgery. It took 7 hours, but that's the basics of how it works.
Does he hear like we hear, though? I mean, is it like a thumping, or do you know?
No one knows. Some people say that it's electronical and robotish, but he can make funny voices exactly like he hears on TV, and I know adults that have cochlear implants that they had hearing before and they lost their hearing and then was implanted, and they said they still listen to music and it all sounds the same to them. So I guess it's a matter of personal opinion.
Okay, all right. Just had to ask that question. I have here, my next question is I would love to hear what it was like for Josh, or kind of, if you wouldn't mind summarizing what it was like the first time Joshua, or what his reaction was the first time he heard his own voice, and when he heard yours and and his daddy's.
I think we've all seen the typical TV reactions that you think of the baby being surprised or the baby laughing, and that's not typical, and that's kind of the out there reaction. Joshua, he was more like, okay, there's something there, but his biggest thing was he banged a toy on the table, and he'd always hit stuff on the tables and everything, but he never did it for long. And I remember right after he got activated, he had some wooden blocks that the therapist had given him, and he hit it on the table and he stopped, and then he hit it again and he looked at it, and he kind of looked at the toy like, what are you doing? You don't usually do that. And so that was the biggest reaction. He really didn't care about my voice or his dad's voice.
Really? He didn't cry? You didn't cry? Did you cry?
I cried.
I bet you did.
I cried, but he didn't.
I was going to say, wow. Oh, but did Brian? Or was he more of a guy kind of thing? Did a guy thing? Okay. All right, the next one, I'm gonna skip number 14 and come down here, and it says, how has Josh adjusted now with his hearing? School, is he okay in school? Everything?
Joshua does well with his implants. He goes to a spoken language preschool, which is speech therapy all day long, and we've made sure that he has stayed up to date we were really involved with everything that we do. This past summer we went to Colorado to the Alexander Graham Bell trip, and that is some of the main people that are proponents for spoken language, and I got to be part of the panel with his implant company, Advanced Bionics, and he got to represent them, and we got to meet tons of children that had cochlear implants, but we got to meet another child named Neil Cottle, who actually competed in the Scripps Spelling Bee, who has cochlear implants. And again, I'm just amazed, because that's something that our children would never have the opportunity to do without implants.
My last question is, if you could talk to yourself and your husband a week before Josh came into the world, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
That it's going to be okay. That it's not going to be bad how we thought it would be.
I love you. I'm sorry.
That it's just, he'll do everything we thought he would do, and he's okay. He asked me every day, Mama, do you hear that? And I'm just still amazed by that, and I still get emotional about that, because it's such a blessing to us. And like I said, I never thought he would hear bells at Christmas or Christmas carols. And he loves singing about Christmas, and he loves jingle bells. And this past Halloween, we were at a trunk or treat, and somebody said, oh, he must really love Christmas. He must be so ready for Christmas, because he was singing jingle bells at the top of his lungs. And it's just amazing to me. And I just wish I could go back and tell myself when he was a newborn that would be okay, and to cherish that time I had with him, and not to spend so much time dwelling on the what ifs. And that would be the main thing I would tell myself.
That is truly understandable, and thank you for sharing that with us. And I appreciate you doing what you've done for this class for me. And I love you and Joshua both. And Brian, too. All right, thank you.